Once again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Brian Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latest gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
Just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. I'm Daniel, and today we're going to be talking about 2 cases that have a lot of updates that have come in. We're going to be talking about the Mckee double homicide of alleged double homicide of Spencer. Monique Tepe. He's still innocent until proven guilty, although I think the evidence is pretty strong, saying that law enforcement got that case right. Well, autopsy reports are out. We're going to read a little bit about what was found in those autopsy reports. I think there's a lot of information that can be taken based on some of the information that we already know. So we're going to try to deduce some of that information. Seems like I said that too many times, but we're going to deduce the info so that way we can kind of determine, what most likely happened that night. And then we're also going to get back into the Nancy Guthrie disappearance, abduction. There's a lot of updates coming out. Some people were pointing at in the direction of a family member earlier on today. I don't necessarily believe that's going to be the avenue that things are heading into now that the day has kind of coming towards an end. But there's been a lot of activity. We're going to break down what that activity is. Miss Savannah Guthrie, she has also, let me turn that off, guys. I apologize. She's also released a statement. We're going to listen to her statement here in a little bit, kind of alluding to, in my opinion, that there actually may be something to this abduction, kidnapping, ransom, and it's pretty crazy. But we'll get into both of those. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Let's do one at a time. Let's start off with the Tepe case out of Columbus, Ohio. So this is from the Columbus Dispatch, and this is, I'm going to put out there that there is a warning advisory for what we're about to discuss and listen to and hear about. Is very heartbreaking. The wounds that they sustained, and what we can deduce out of that information. So let's begin. It starts off saying this is from the Columbus Dispatch. The autopsy reports for the Columbus couple who were fatally shot inside of their home show a full magazine of bullets were fired into the victims. Monique Tepe, 39, and Spencer Tepe, 37, died on December 30th after being fatally shot inside of their home on the 1400 block of North 4th Street in the Wheeland Park. Their 2 young children were physically unharmed. Monique's ex-husband, Michael Mckee, is charged with aggravated murder and aggravated burglary in connection with their deaths. Mckee pled not guilty and is currently being held without bail in the Franklin County Jail. The autopsy reports for Spencer and Monique released by the Franklin County Coroner's Office February 3rd show that they were both shot multiple times. That was one of the things that we weren't sure about, right? Was the amount of shots that were taken. We knew that they found 3 shell casings. And so it appeared that, and I think it was reported that at least Spencer had been shot multiple times and that there was at least 1 gunshot known to Monique. And we now know that that's not to be the case, that a full clip was used. Then he must have either, like I mentioned before, he put the gun in a bag, or he spent time there trying to pick up and locate the pieces or the spent rounds, and just didn't find 3 of them. I lean more towards the latter. the other possibility is, like I said, this guy, he planned a lot of things. Is it possible that he put the gun inside of a bag? That way it could catch, all of the spent rounds as it was shooting out of out of the weapon. Possible. And, as he ran away from the scene, there's a hole in the front of the bag for where where the round came out. Did a couple of casings fall out? Possible, but more so, I think that he probably fired all of the rounds and just couldn't locate three of them, whether because it was dark or him only having a short period of time. The noise that the gun makes, even though he had a silencer, it still was still makes a lot of noise. It's very loud, and then given the fact that it's dead of the nighttime, no traffic, everybody's asleep, everybody in the neighborhood is asleep. That sound is probably amplified inside of that room to the person that made those shots, and so it could really be one or the other. He put his gun in something and took the shots in hopes that it would capture majority or of all of the spent casings, and two got out, or he spent the time to pick up. What is that? If they missed three, then 13. And we'll go through the injuries and the type of movements he was making. Those shell casings would have been all over the place. So according to the report, Spencer was shot at an indeterminate range, meaning that there was no evidence showing how close or how far away the weapon was that shot him when it was fired. It doesn't say the same for Monique. They don't say the same for Monique, so they don't disclose what it was. But I would anticipate that it was probably at short range. My thought process is that it was her first, and at very close range, and I'll explain here in a sec. So for Spencer, he sustained, according to the autopsy report, a wound to the left ear, left side of his neck, left upper chest, left lower chest, left hand, left upper back, and right arm near the elbow. So to me, it sounds kind of like as the gun is coming up, facing towards Spencer, the assailant or Michael Mckee allegedly is shooting the gun as he's raising the weapon, and it sounds like Spencer is then turning around, and then also getting shot in the back at the same time. And so, I kind of told a story last time we were talking about this case where I was aware of an officer who had to utilize his weapon on the line of duty. He was a coworker of mine. And in that scenario, he had pulled up. It was a domestic violence situation. Guy comes out with a shotgun. This officer was a motorcycle officer. He gets off his motorcycle, pulls out his weapon, and the suspect, draws his gun or the shotgun towards the officer, and you can see where this officer shot the ground about 20 feet in front of him, and then about 35 feet in front of him, and then where he hit the guy twice. But you can see where the gun, as he's coming up, he's starting to shoot already, and I kind of think that's what we're seeing here in this scenario here. The report says Spencer would have died within seconds to minutes of being shot. A toxicology report performed as a standard part of the autopsy procedure found no alcohol or drugs in Spencer's system. Pathologists, cannot say that word today, recovered one bullet described as a large caliber from Spencer's right arm. Injuries described in the autopsy report with trajectories from both front and back to front, indicating that Spencer may have moved during the shooting. The injuries to Spencer's hand and right arm also would indicate that he was trying to defend himself or Monique. Monique's autopsy report shows that she was shot 9 times. Also so I was wrong. I thought it didn't say that they didn't know, but it says also at an indeterminate range. The injuries to Monique suffered, according to the autopsy report, were a wound to the right cheek, 3 gunshot wounds to the right chest, all clustered together. And so to me, that kind of told me he was close. The shots that he made towards or the injuries that Spencer had were pretty wide ranged, clustered together, 3 gunshot wounds in the chest. Tells me he was extremely close. That's just my opinion. They can't determine that based on the injuries, but based on the other shots, it seems like he was more accurate with Monique. And to me, that would be an indication that he was probably fairly close. Then he goes on to say a wound to the right side of the torso, a wound to the right forearm, a wound to the left hand, 2 wounds to the upper arm. You know, for somebody to, they're saying that she somewhat defended herself, but that she would have died within minutes. It doesn't, this doesn't sound like it was boom, 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 boom. This sounds more like boom, and then she moved, and then he shot again, and he's just kind of. This doesn't sound like a sporadic, very quick boom, boom, boom. I don't know how much movement she would be able to make if it was that way. I don't know. I don't know if he shot her and then went, Spencer got up and then he shot at Spencer as Spencer was coming at him. And then he went back towards Monique. To me, that's kind of where my, seeing the pieces of this puzzle where that probably goes into. Monique had no alcohol or drugs in her system aside from antihistamine. According to the autopsy report, pathologists recovered 2 bullets, 1 bullet from a fragment from Monique's body. The autopsy report says both Monique and Spencer likely died within seconds to minutes of being shot. The injuries they suffered and the trajectories indicate that they may have moved or attempted to defend themselves. A total of 16 gunshots were discovered during the autopsy. A standard magazine for a handgun holds 15 to 17 rounds, depending on the size of the bullet. And they said it was a large caliber. I would reckon it's probably a 15 with 1 in the chamber. That's 16 rounds, 16 bullets that they found. He didn't miss. And I'm assuming they didn't find anything that would have indicated like a hole in the wall or something like that, or in the bed. That's not accounted for. That would say, hey, he missed the shot as well. And so he completely emptied his clip. That could mean a lot of things. All right, both deaths were ruled homicides, which means that the fatal injuries were sustained by the hands of another person, and the ruling is not assign any criminality or guilt. Court records show Mckee is accused of going into the Tepe's home weeks before the killing, staying at the location for several hours. And then we read all through this before. So he went through a lot, and I told you guys before he got arrested that the person that we should be looking for is somebody that is, the person that committed this crime was very calculated, and probably put a lot of thought and forethought into committing this crime, and try to mitigate evidence. Right. So we find out later he leaves his phone somewhere. That was the biggest one, is him leaving his phone at work and then traveling across, I think it's like 6-7 hours, then going back, looking down. There was a lot of things that just kind of told me that this person was calculated. The fact that he didn't just drive up to the house, park somewhere else and walk up to the house, that says a lot. And so, and not only that video of him walking through the alley, he's not looking at other cars. He's not looking at other houses. So it's not like a burglar. This person knew exactly where they were going. And so as more information breaks on this case, we'll continue to cover it and talk about it. But he also did switch license plates. There was a lot of things that he did. He used a silencer. There was no forced entry. There was no sign of, to me, there was no sign. They said there was no sign of a motive for the case. So there wasn't any ransacking of the house to make it look like it was an attempted burglary. The bodies were found in the bedroom, meaning that, most likely the person walked into the bedroom and caught them by surprise. kind of like what Brian Koberger did, obviously a different weapon, but going in the middle of the night while somebody's asleep. And I think that's what he did. I think he caught him by surprise. All righty. Let's see. And hit the like button, guys. Share the podcast too. I'd appreciate it if you guys would. That I would appreciate that a lot. Let's get this podcast out to as many people as possible. All right, so let's go into the Guthrie case now, and I'm gonna pull up this video. I need to adjust the volume possibly, but this is a statement that was just released by Savannah Guthrie. She is the co-anchor for the Today Show. Her mother went missing. I think it was like on Sunday, and there was signs and evidence of that she was not left, that she left the property not of her free will. And so a ransom note has been sent. I mean, it wasn't really a ransom note. I think it was more like an email or something of that nature, has been sent to a couple of news stations requesting money in Bitcoin and a deadline and a specific amount of money. And supposedly they have given information that only the person that committed this crime would have known. Now, I don't know that to be true, but let's listen to what Miss Guthrie has to say, and then we'll break it down as she talks.
On behalf of our family, we want to thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom, Nancy. We feel them, and we continue to believe that she feels them too. Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She is funny, and spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
The light is missing from our lives. Nancy is our mother. We are her children. She is our beacon. She holds fast to joy in all of life's circumstances. She chooses joy day after day, despite having already passed through great trials of pain and grief. We are always going to be merely human, just normal human people who need our mom. Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home. We miss you.
Our mom is our heart and our home. She is 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile. She lives in constant pain. She is without any medicine. She needs it to survive. She needs it not to suffer. We too have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk. However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her.
Okay, so let's pause it real quick. First and foremost, I mean, this is completely heartbreaking for this family. And, my prayers and thoughts, I'm sure the collective prayers and thoughts of those that are watching, go out to the Guthrie family. And I couldn't imagine what they're going through, and I hope there's answers found, and I hope she's found safe. Now, she mentioned a couple of things. She mentions a ransom note, that they're aware of it. From what I understand, law enforcement did share the information about the ransom note to the family. And so with that being said, she mentioned in a world where you can manipulate things, AI is pretty crazy right now, where you can get AI to, take an image of somebody and a voice and make it do or sound and say whatever you want. And it's pretty impressive. If these folks are into like the Bitcoin and all these other things, and have all these avenues of moving, money and stuff like that, and computers and things like that, then I wouldn't put it past the realm of possibility that they could create some sort of AI tool or utilize an AI tool to manipulate something in a very crazy manner. But it sounds like there is something, maybe an image, maybe an audio, but they want absolute proof. But we don't know what the media has gotten. TMZ was pretty adamant that they felt like it was pretty real, and that they had information that only the person that committed the crime may have had. I don't know if I'm ready to go there. Again, AI is pretty crazy, and it's pretty strange. It's pretty strange that she's saying we're ready to talk. She's trying to get them to come forward and talk with them, and hopefully that leads to a safe return. If not, also maybe answers and maybe an arrest and conviction as well. Let's continue what she says.
We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen. Please reach out to us. Mommy, if you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy. We believe and know that even in this valley, He is with you. Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere. We will not rest. Your children will not rest until we are together again. We speak to you every moment, and we pray without ceasing, and we rejoice in advance for the day that we hold you in our arms again. We love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
We love you, Mom. We love
Prayers. Yeah. Super sad, guys. And couldn't imagine going through anything like this. It's completely heartbreaking. But they say, hey, they're ready to talk. They want to, they're ready to talk and get things going. We'll see how this goes. And so the sheriff's department released a statement saying, at this point, the investigators have not identified a suspect or a person of interest in this case. Detectives continue to speak with anyone who may have contact with Miss Guthrie. Detectives are working closely with the Guthrie family. While we appreciate the public's concern, the sharing of unverified accusations or false information is irresponsible and does not assist the investigation. No suspect or person of interest has been identified at this time. And that was kind of in response to, I think there was a lot of people on social media that was pointing at a brother-in-law of Savannah's. And I mean, some pretty horrific things were being said about this guy, and unfound things. And apparently I don't think he has anything to do with anything. And so again, the internet strikes again where they go after somebody just because, they jump to a conclusion, and you make more victims out of a situation. Like, for instance, this one here from Zach, he posted, he said, imagine going through everything that this family is going through and also having to contend with humans who will post stuff like this. Unreal. Annie and Tommy are amazing people, dedicated parents who are also love and care for Nancy on a daily basis. And they shared a post where this was the person that was being accused earlier, and somebody here, Gina something, Savannah Guthrie's brother-in-law and sister are alleged suspects in Nancy Guthrie's abduction. They look like creepy weirdos. Like, and I believe this person also posted some things about like their house and how much it cost, and did they have financial problems and things like that. So that stuff doesn't help. That stuff don't help. But let's see. Now, what is going on currently? Let's see. I want to put this in somewhat of an order here. That makes sense. Okay, so there is canine, and there's been an active search going around the property. Let me pull it up here. So this was earlier today from the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Detectives are coordinating a follow-up at the Guthrie home and in the neighborhood. Parking is extremely limited and traffic continues to be affected. Due to the media, roadway may be needed to be restricted and you will no longer have a good vantage point. See media staging point. So they're basically saying that they're going to go back out there and the media is going to have to move. And Michael here reports that shortly before investigators were seen rolling out yellow tape at Nancy Guthrie's home, the sheriff's department sent this info. While our detectives have turned the home over to the Guthrie family, this is still an active investigation, so you may see active activity in that area during this process. And so we now see Brian Enton. He's come out and he's indicated that police and what appear to be feds just showed up at Nancy Guthrie's. I keep saying the wrong name. I apologize. Nancy Guthrie's. Once I get a name stuck in my head, guys, it's hard to get it out. Y'all remember the whole Pam Kim situation that happened with the Brian Koberger case? So once I get a name stuck, it's hard. Nancy Guthrie house. They're staging the driveway and appear to be planning to do some kind of search. So here's what that looks like.
Off outside Nancy Guthrie's house. About a dozen sheriff's deputies and FBI. I think FBI showed up here. There's also a dog, canine. We have our drone up, so I should have better video in a second, but there's another team of officers that came in this van. We don't really know what's going on because it's been quiet here for the last couple of days. But now clearly they are about to do something at the house. All right, I'll keep you guys posted.
So that's Brian Enton coming in with the news on the scene. We have a canine also. Let's pull that up real quick. So they're bringing canine. I believe Border Star was brought in. Border Star is like the tactical SRT team, the special response team, or the like the tactical response team, kind of like the SWAT team for Border Patrol. No, I'm not sure about anything being removed from anybody's house. Send me that clue. So this was the canine.
Look at this. It is now.
And this is from Nerdy Addict on Twitter or X.
Look at this. It is now back to being a crime scene out here. This is after 2 days ago, the sheriff cleared the area saying that the house was searched moments ago. Several agencies pulled up. They put the tape around the house. They told us to move back, and they're once again appearing to be investigating the house again. The main thing is we did see canine units in the backyard of the home, and this is what it is, the situation out here as of Wednesday evening. Look at this. It is now back to being a crime scene out here. This is after.
I got your email stuff. I've been meaning to respond to you. I've just been working. Tomorrow's my day off. Let's see. Okay. I'm just trying to see real quick if I can get, I'm supposed to get some information sent out to me. So let me see if I can get that real fast. If it's arrived, it has not. Okay. All right. So that is the what's been going on at the home. Now here's what TMZ dropped a little bit earlier ago. So TMZ says that Nancy Guthrie kidnapping, cops probing trespassing case for possible link. And this was dropped about noon Pacific Standard Time, so about 2:00 Central Time. A suspicious man has been seen lurking in someone's yard near Nancy Guthrie's Arizona home several weeks ago, and the police are now investigating the case to see if it's tied to the mother of Savannah Guthrie's kidnapping. The Pima County Sheriff's Department tells TMZ in early January an elderly man spotted the trespasser at his Tucson home, less than 10 minutes away from the 84-year-old Nancy's house. The Sheriff's Department said that the case was forwarded to the unit investigating Nancy's case for possible leads. TMZ spoke with an elderly man who said that he caught the loiterer in his yard after a motion sensor went off and a floodlight switched on. We were told that the light spooked the uninvited guest, who fled on foot before anyone could get a good look at his face. The man noted there was no break-in attempt and nothing was stolen from his house. And everyone knows Nancy's family reported her missing Sunday after they received word she did not show up for her regular church service. Police say that she was kidnapped from her home between Saturday night and Sunday morning on Tuesday. News Nation senior national correspondent Brian Enton published footage that showed a blood trail on Nancy's porch. Authorities have not named a suspect, and the Pima County Sheriff, Chris Nanos, said Wednesday that they have no reason to believe she is deceased. So that is the information here. Now, I found this, and this is from, again, Nerdy Addict. Now, this says here, the Pima County Sheriff tells the TMZ that in early January, an elderly man reported spotting a trespasser at his Tucson home, less than 10 minutes away from the 84-year-old's Nancy Guthrie's house. Investigators are now examining whether that incident is connected with the abduction of Guthrie's mother. Unrelated to that incident, in early December, so this is something different, Pima County authorities were also searching for a man seen peeping into apartment windows about 23 minutes away from Nancy Guthrie's home. The individual appeared to be posed as a delivery driver and was captured on surveillance video. And so this is from the same county sheriff's department reporting of a suspicious person about not too far away from where Nancy lived. And so could be related, could not, probably isn't, to be honest with you. This is probably just, this guy looks like he's trying to take pictures inside of a window that's open. Weirdo, dude. So he's dressed as an Amazon delivery driver. Maybe perhaps was at one time. But I think anybody can get one of those from anywhere. But that is from the same. This guy looks more like a peeping Tom. But could be. Let's see. I went on a few things. Got it. All right, so I'm going to pull up these two clips. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me send this out to myself. Okay. All right. Give me 1 second, guys. Let's pull this up. Okay. All right. All right. Sorry for all that, guys. I was just pulling all this up. I got to send it to myself and then pull it up. And so I apologize for all that. All right. So let's pull this here and we're going to listen and watch this.
Contributor now, Ashley Banfield, back on News Nation, which is, it's always great to see you, my friend, along with our senior national correspondent, Brian Enton, who continues his terrific reporting on the ground on this difficult story in Tucson. And a lot of people, Ashley, want to know about and hear about your reporting on this story, which we will do. I want to go to Brian first on our own confirmed reporting on the ground there, and then we're going to come back to some of what you've been hearing. So, Brian, today, what are the developments? Again, day 4, from investigators, people you're talking to, are they getting anywhere?
A couple of new developments, Connell. First of all, the search for Nancy Guthrie continues, and I saw it with my own eyes just a couple of blocks from her home here in the neighborhood. There were about half a dozen sheriff's deputies kind of in a field area doing what looked like a grid search. We don't know exactly what they were looking for, but they were clearly still searching. We also saw a helicopter up late last night for about an hour, just circling over Nancy's home, very, very low, with 2 deputies looking out the helicopter, looking for something. Something else brand new, Connell, just within the last 20 minutes at Nancy Guthrie's daughter's house, Annie. That's about 10 minutes from here, Savannah's sister, Annie. We know that there are federal agents that were back at the house again and went inside the house. They were inside the house for a little bit of time, and then they came out of the house and they left again. And on their shirts, it said ICAC, which is an Internet Crimes Against Children task force, from what we know. But we know that they also do other analysis of technology and cell phones and computers and that kind of thing. So they were back.
All right, let me rewind that a little bit.
And then they came out of the house and they left again. At Nancy Guthrie's daughter's house, Annie. That's about 10 minutes from here, Savannah's sister, Annie. We know that there are federal agents that were back at the house again and went inside the house. They were inside the house for a little bit of time, and then they came out of the house and they left again. And on their shirts, it said ICAC, which is an Internet Crimes Against Children task force, from what we know. But we know that they also do other analysis of technology and cell phones and computers and that kind of thing. So they were back at the house. We also saw Annie Guthrie, and who we believe is Savannah's brother, also arriving back at the sister's house a couple of hours. So that seems like it's where the family is sort of staging right now, as everybody here in the neighborhood and really all of Tucson and now the country and world at this point just sort of waits on the edge of their seat to see what happens next with this investigation.
They absolutely do. Here's what the sheriff's office put out in a statement earlier, saying at this point, investigators have not identified a suspect or person of interest in this case. Detectives continue to speak with anyone who may have had contact with Mrs. Guthrie. Detectives working closely with the Guthrie family. While we appreciate the public's concern, the sharing of unverified accusations or false information is irresponsible, does not assist the investigation. No suspect or person of interest has been identified at this time. You know, as I said, a lot of people actually want to hear what you're saying about this. We've been talking about it on your podcast. So what can you tell us tonight?
Well, I have an impeccable.
So that's interesting. That's interesting. You know, now, what could it be? You know, I mean, it's interesting. You know, the first thing that comes to mind, I think comes to everybody's mind, is this guy, the suspect. And I think maybe this is why people started thinking of him as a suspect. But I wonder if they contacted them through, if the abductors contacted the brother-in-law and the sister, and somehow through the computer there. I don't know if they would necessarily need their stuff. You know, that's one thing, that's one possibility, so that we don't jump to a complete conclusion that these guys were somewhat involved. It seems like law enforcement came out with a statement saying that there was no, they don't have a suspect in mind yet, which I would have assumed that this person would have been a suspect. But then again, you know, they could have very well have been going through and locating a what do you call it? You know, when they're investigating one crime, they could have very well have found another, so to speak. So very possible. Let's see what else comes out of this.
Source, a high-level law enforcement source. Connell, I've been doing this job for almost 4 decades, and I've made a lot of friends in the FBI, made a lot of friends in Border Patrol, made a lot of friends in local law enforcement all around the country, and this is one of my best sources of all time. So this is an impeccable source, and I don't believe the source would lead me down the garden path. And what that source told me was, number one, there were Nest cameras, plural, and they were smashed, and that they'd been taken into evidence. Brian Enton saw that the Nest camera on the front of the house.
Somebody had showed a picture of the camera that was there before, and it wasn't broken into or anything. But I don't know. Maybe she's right. I don't know. This is the first time I've heard any of this, but I'm assuming that's what I now know what they were referring to. So when I was going through the Twitter, somebody was posting up pictures of the house before law enforcement, I guess, took the cameras, and they were there. And so they're like, hey, this is proof that they weren't smashed and that law enforcement is who has them. And I'm assuming, and I now figure out why they were saying that. They were saying that to dispute what Ashley Banfield is saying.
Had actually been removed. The sheriff would not confirm or deny that they'd been smashed or taken by either the sheriff or the suspect, or whomever committed this crime. I was also told the back door was left wide open. It's fascinating to see Brian's video of the blood drops at the front door. So that leaves open another part of this mystery. What happened at the back of the house? What happened at the front? I was also told that the car belonging to Annie Guthrie, that's Savannah's sister, Nancy Guthrie's daughter, had been towed and taken into evidence. And then the critical line from this high-level law enforcement source was that the son-in-law may be prime suspect at this time. I also want to say this.
I guess I now know where everybody's coming up with when he's the suspect. It was from Ashley Banfield. Interesting. But law enforcement came out and said something different. So I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't spoken to anybody close to this case to know one way or the other.
I don't doubt for a moment that the sheriff's office has it in their best interest to put out that statement. But I've been to this rodeo before, and so has Brian Enton. On December 19th, the Moscow police identified Brian Kohberger through genealogical DNA found on the snap of the knife sheath. December 19th, 2022. On December 20th, the day after, the police chief said, no suspects have been identified, and only vetted information that does not hinder the investigation will be released to the public. We encourage referencing official releases for accurate and updated progress. So I have been there before when the police quietly among themselves identify someone, but publicly tell us nothing to see here. That's not to say that their information could change. I saw it change with John Ramsey. They thought he was under the umbrella of suspicion. They changed it years later. I saw it as well with Ed Smart. They changed that too.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation.
You don't got to yell. You don't got to yell, but do subscribe here. Hit the like button and subscribe. I don't know. I have no idea. I would assume that if it was somebody that close, forcible entry, neighborhood that she lived in, I would assume that there's probably cameras leading up to that house. Maybe not, there was some cameras there, but, he would have to leave his house or his location, get there, travel there, go back home. It wouldn't be very difficult to figure that stuff out, in my opinion, because there's certain things that have to happen when somebody commits a crime. They have to arrive at the place. They have to have left their house at some point, travel across a certain amount of distance. It was this completely planned out the entire time. I don't know, but if the Guthries thought that there was a chance that the brother-in-law was the suspect, would they be going out and making a statement saying that they want to speak to the abductors? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't know. And just because something was said in one case doesn't necessarily mean that it'll have any effect, or that something in another case is going to be the same. That's one thing that I harp on, is not to look at two cases and think because there's some similarities that they are exactly the same. And I wouldn't do that in this scenario either. But that was interesting. The fact that they went in to look at their computer. I wonder if they were contacted by that means. And if they were, if it was the brother-in-law and it was, somebody not Savannah, could that be some sort of proof that, hey, we got your contact information through her? Now, you can probably pull that off of the interwebs and stuff. And if you're good at doing the internet stuff, you probably can. But I would assume that they're probably thinking that Savannah's, is being monitored. Her phone's being monitored. Everything is being monitored. That maybe they'll contact the, one of her sisters instead. And so maybe that's why there was all that action out there. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I'd have to see. Now, I don't remember. See, here's the thing: those videos are taken down, but I have a video of what was said on December 20th, and she's not accurate. I mean, she could be. I could be completely wrong. Maybe they put out a different statement. But on December 20th, Chief Fry came out and did this whole thing where he was, pumping his chest. I did a whole video. I was like, hey, I think they figured out who their guy was, because look, he on December 19th, December 18th, he put out these videos. He had bags in his eyes. He looked tired. December 20th, there was a change of his story. It was, hey, I want to let everybody know that we're still working this case. We have X amount of detectives. This is this detective who's working on it. This person's working on. It was almost like like we did it type of thing, and you could see he had like a pregnant glow to him, Chief Fry. And if somebody can find that video where I was breaking it down, I was like, look, this is when they knew. I think it was called December 19th was a bad day for Brian Koberger or something like that. And then I was showing some clips because this is when I was telling people that, oh, this is the day that they got his name. And I was able to break that down based on what he was saying that day. But is it true that, they're going to say, well, we don't have a suspect in mind? At that point, yeah, it does kind of make sense too, because you don't want to alert somebody to a certain extent. So if they say, oh yeah, we have a suspect with the Brian Koberger case, and you don't know where he's at, because they didn't know where he was at. That was the other thing too. So there's a lot of differences here, because they didn't know where Brian Koberger was December 19th. It took them, I don't know, a few days. I think it was December like 24th or something like that before they finally pulled into his neighborhood. So there's a lot of differences between these two cases. And in this scenario, from what I understand, is they've already also spoken to the brother-in-law. That was a good amount of blood. This guy didn't have the forensic background or the that was on the ground. He didn't have the forensic background nor the time that Brian Koberger had to clean up his vehicle if he took his vehicle. But I don't know. I don't know. And somebody took off the doorbell camera, like actually ripped it off and took it off. Well, I mean, it may have been law enforcement having difficulty removing it from the wall. Let's see. You can see the relief. Yeah. Yeah, Sirius was there. I was like, man, this guy has like this pregnant glow around him. I was making fun of him. I was like, this is when they found out that this was the guy. This was the guy. So I'm not one to jump to a conclusion, guys. And so just because they had the, law enforcement go in, it's a flag. We got to keep an eye on it. But I before we jump to a conclusion, start calling these people names and accusing them of doing something, let's see what law enforcement does and says. And then law enforcement does come out pretty quickly. I don't know what the advantage would be in this scenario if it was the brother-in-law. If it was the brother-in-law, what's the advantage of keeping that information hush hush? You know what I mean? I mean, not hush hush. What's the advantage of saying that we don't have a suspect in mind or anything like that? Why not just let it? Why not say anything at all? You know what I mean? Let it get to him. Let all the accusations, let the media talk about it. Let all this stuff go on. And let's see if he gets nervous. Let's see what he does. Keep an eye on him. You know what I mean? What's the advantage of saying, oh, no, you know what? Never mind. Don't. no, we don't have a suspect yet. It's not him at this point. I don't know, but it's quite possible. It's quite possible they might want to get him to slip up. They might want to get him to slip up. Heather, I saw a picture of the cameras on the house at one point. I'll see if I pull them up. I was looking through the Twitter, and there was pictures of the cameras there. And this was, I guess, I can't remember who it was that had posted it. I'll see if I can find them, and then if I do, I'll post them in the Discord. But I'm pretty sure I saw the videos because it was specifically referencing this. It was saying that there was, look, here's the doorbell. I think it was the doorbell camera more so than the other ones, but like the camera near the door. You can see it in this image, and it's not damaged, and it's there. So proof that it was law enforcement that took it off. But if you have something different, let me know. Wasn't law enforcement? Well, I'd have to look for it. I haven't seen it, but like I said, I was looking at the Twitter machine, and maybe the person that posted it was wrong. But if there is, all right, hold on. We got some more things going on. Agents at their house they were leaving for the night. So what do I think happened here? I think that if there's more to the abduction theory, and the federal feds are getting involved, maybe they've reclosed the scene, which is what I think is going on here, and are reinvestigating everything because they want to get everything firsthand, because it hasn't been that long. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to send this one because there's some focus in the inside of the house. Let me send this one. Okay, give me 1 second, everybody. So you see a lot of focus in the window here of one of the rooms. Interesting. All right, let's see. I'm gonna look up on here if I can find the camera situation, because I have no idea. Actually, I could be wrong. I saw, like I said, the person who posted it online. I had no idea what they were referring to, but let's see. So this is what I was talking about earlier. Let me pull this up real quick. So these are some of the intersections there that lead to her home. Either you live in this area or I guess there's this one here, but these are where the cameras are, like from some big places. And so if somebody came from quite a bit of a distance away, I think they would have probably gotten captured there. Let's see. Yeah, I'm trying to find something that shows the cameras. Yeah, somebody said something about it. They're not sure still who took the cameras. But I thought I read also yesterday that there was something about the cameras being deleted after a short period of time, so they were going through them forensically. Interesting stuff. Let me see if there's anything new coming out real quick. Let me actually start closing some of this other stuff. So put a couple of stars in there if you have any questions for me, guys. Let me know what you guys have. Sheriffs did not want to answer. Who took the cameras? That's interesting. If the cameras were taken by a suspect, that shows a lot of planning, a lot of forethought, a lot of knowledge of the house and where they were located. I wonder if they, I guess the biggest question is, did the person go around the house and take them off after the crime or before? Probably before. I'm assuming she's not that very mobile and stuff like that. That's a lot of forethought. That's a lot of, that's some premeditation there. Law enforcement may wanted to say that there's no suspect to keep certain people talking, especially when it's potentially the husband and wife. Also to continue to observe the suspect's actions. Yeah, that's possible. Sheriff said we were aware that the cameras were tampered with. Okay. Let's see. I just feel that if it was the brother-in-law, I don't necessarily think that the Guthrie family, the Guthrie family, is going to come out and talk about the potential of the abductors stuff. I think they would, if they had any idea that it was the brother-in-law. I think they would have been like, we're aware of these things, and it's not what we think happened. Crazy stuff, though, guys. There's a lot of stuff here that are interesting. Has law enforcement been able to confirm anything? I don't think so. Let me see if Brian Enton has anything new recently. No, just that they left about 2 hours ago, and that's about it. Why do I think that the hostage takers would ask for Bitcoin? Because it's not traceable, or it's very hard to be traceable. You can move it around and do a lot of things with it. I'm assuming you can probably have it go in different directions, to be honest with you. And it becomes very hard to, with computers and things. I mean, I'm not the most computer savvy guy, but from what I understand is it makes it more difficult to trace. You may have discussed this before. I think they released the crime scene too quickly? Maybe. I mean, it seems like they're finding some things, so it's possible. I mean, could they have released it? See, I don't want to add to the conspiracy because I don't know. But could they want to release it to see what they do, like somebody does inside of the house? Maybe not. Cash Patel is on his way to Tucson. Interesting. Brian Enton not able to get a confirmation about the brother-in-law or sister is very telling to me. I don't know. I mean, again, it shouldn't be that difficult to figure, somebody that close. But I said that also in the Tepe case, where I said it shouldn't be that difficult if it's the ex-husband. I gave 4 weeks. If it's the brother-in-law, this type of situation, I'd assume he'd be arrested fairly quickly. But I don't think it'd go more than a week if it was the brother-in-law and they're already, looking into things, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Did they tow the son-in-law's car, or is that a rumor? Do you know? I don't. You know what? Let me look that up. Let me look up what's going on the web instead of Twitter. Okay, so let's see. So I got 2 links here. Let's open these up. A high-level law enforcement source told journalist Ashley Banfield that the son-in-law is of the missing 84-year-old is the prime suspect now in the disappearance. That the source said, who she described as impeccable, told her that police were looking closely at Tommaso Cioni, who is married to Nancy Guthrie's daughter, Annie. Nancy Guthrie is the mother of Today's Show co-host Savannah Guthrie. Let's kind of fast forward this a little bit. The sharing of unverified accusations, false information is irresponsible, does not assist the investigation. See, that's the other thing too. They added this part into their statement. Was that the sharing of unverified accusations or false information is irresponsible and does not assist the investigation. It's one thing to say we don't have a suspect in mind and this, that, and a third, but also to respond with that. That's kind of telling. That's a little telling. I think it's really critical to say that the police reserve the right to change things. And I'm assuming that what Ms. Banfield is saying there is that at one point he may have been a suspect, maybe because they were the last persons to see her alive. They dropped her off. But I think that maybe perhaps it sounds like with that type of statement, it's a avenue to walk things back. Needless to say that she's leaving an avenue to say, hey, they could have thought of him as a suspect at one point, but they can always change their mind based on the evidence as it comes in. And good to see you, Ms. Hall. Banfield said that her source provided more details about the crime scene, telling her that multiple Nest cameras at the home were smashed. The source told Banfield that this indicated that the person who disabled them knew where they were in the house, and so they were inside the house. Interesting. The source said that the blood inside the house, not just a blood trail, documented outside the front door. Banfield also said her source told her the back door was left wide open and that Annie Guthrie's car had been towed and taken into evidence. So this is all coming from Ashley Banfield and her sources. I hope she's right, because if she's not, this is not going to look good for her. Ensign reported separately Wednesday that federal agents from the team that has multiple tasks, including analysis and technology, cell phone, and computers, were seen visiting Annie Guthrie's home, where Savannah Guthrie is believed to be staying. So Savannah's staying at that house where this guy lives. The agents entered the house briefly before leaving. So could they have gotten contact? Before I thought it was just them. I thought it was just, the sister and brother-in-law that live there, but apparently Savannah's been staying there. Could they have been there because they got contacted of some sort? She mentions video and audio that can be manipulated in her statement. Did they get something? And that's what brought in those that team that's that usually deals with like certain crimes, but also dive into like internet crimes and things of that nature. To me, this just kind of seems that at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, there's one thing to be suspicious in the beginning, but as the evidence comes along, if we stick to the initial stuff, then and not look at everything as law enforcement is moving, then we'll end up, tripping up, and we don't want to do that. it seems like maybe perhaps there was some sort of maybe they did look in that direction. Maybe somebody got some information and just connected the dots wrong. But Savannah apparently is also staying at that house. That's interesting. I wonder if she truly suspected that, you know, her brother-in-law and sister had something to do with this, that she would be staying there. What do you guys think? You know what I'm saying? Those things don't make sense. All right. Enton reported separately Wednesday. All right. So we got that. Enton also saw deputies conducting what appeared to be a grid search in the field near Nancy Guthrie's home Wednesday, and a helicopter circled low over the property Tuesday night, where deputies are looking out for something. I mean, if they're looking in the immediate area, it sounds more like they don't, I don't know. I mean, it's almost like they're not sure that she left the property. She was 84 years old. The blood on the floor looked like it was coughed. Like there was mist. There was two separate types of blood on the floor. It looked like there was mist, which I had sent this information. We talked about it last night. I sent this information to Steve from True Crime Web, who's a retired CSI crime scene investigator. And he said, yeah, you got a couple of different things. He even thought that maybe perhaps somebody may have stepped into some of the blood on the ground. But, and that, you know, we're aware of some of the medication that she's on. You know, is it possible that she did hurt herself, try to walk outside, fall down and stay there for a minute? Because that's one of the things that even Steve had told me, is that the drops of blood on the front there appear that there's no like direction towards them. Like they're not moving in one way or the other. It's as if the person stayed there for a second and heavy drops of blood fell. Then you have the mist, which is like somebody coughing it up. Now, could that have been, let's just say if she had an injury to her head and blood was rushing down her face, and she just coughs or whatever the case, and it's not necessarily blood coming from inside of her, but it's just the cough from the dripping of the blood. That's possible. Or it could be from, you know, something happening internally and then she's coughing up the blood. If that's hers, don't even know if that's the case. It appears that she stayed there for a minute though. I don't know if that's, you know, or like maybe not a whole minute, but she wasn't moving rapidly and they weren't moving her when that was happening. I wonder if that's an indication of maybe perhaps it was just her. I don't know. I don't know yet. Maybe it was from blood bleeding from the nose. It could be. But even if there is, like, if she was bleeding from the nose and she's walking, there would be some like direction towards it. And then if you look at the mist that's there, it's real closely grouped. You know, to me, that's an indication of being close to the ground. You know, think of like birdshot. You know, the closer you are when you shoot a shotgun with birdshot, the closer the group of the rounds are going to be. You know, the further away that spread gets out, right? Kind of like that. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Hopefully the crime scene was preserved properly. I hope so too. The pacemaker, probable heart issues, failure can make you cough often. Sometimes the blood, depending with how sick you are. It could be, you know, and maybe that's why they're bringing in the helicopters real low and still searching. And if that ends up being the case, then what we also have is just a sick group of people who are a person who's trying to, you know, cash in on a very unfortunate situation. And with the ransom and the potential any videos or audio that they may have created with the Bitcoin stuff. So I have no idea. Don't know what's going on. I'm not going to say one way or the other. Maybe the FBI wanted the car to tap the GPS and get a read on Nancy's pacemaker. Maybe they can triangulate it. Well, she was supposedly in that car last, right? You know, I think that was the car. They're the ones that dropped her off. Maybe they want to make sure there's no blood in it. You know, just cross their dots, or cross their T's and dot their I's. Is what I meant to say. Let's see. Let's go into this other. This is from Hudson Times. With Savannah Guthrie's sister car seized and Nancy Guthrie's kidnapping, cops share updates on Annie. Let's see. A report from an independent journalist claims that Anna Guthrie's sister car has been seized. This is coming back from Ashley Banfield. Now authorities have provided an update today. Host Savannah Guthrie's sister and her husband. Pima County Sheriff's Department released a statement saying, "We have not identified a suspect or person of interest in the case, and detectives continue to speak with anyone who may have had contact with Miss Guthrie. We are also waiting for additional forensic results." They made it clear that Sione is not a person of interest in the investigation, but authorities had likely been in touch because he may have had contact with Nancy. I think he was the last person to drop her off. Annie was the last person to see Nancy on Saturday night when the two reportedly had dinner together. She reportedly lived close to Nancy's place. However, it is not known if Sione was there as well. So if they live close, remember how there was some cameras that were around? I guess that could be another thing, right? She was reportedly missing on Sunday after missing church service. Annie and Sione tied the knot in 2006. Daily Mail reported that they have one child. Annie Guthrie had expressed her thoughts about Sione in 2013, saying, "My husband, Tommaso Sione, is the greatest teacher, a great manifester. He writes poetry with his lifestyle. I was trained as a reader. My family was book-centered in junior high. I always hid in the library at lunchtime to avoid the other kids. I think writing is just what young readers begin to do. There was never a decision. My mom always made us keep diaries." So here's where it goes about was the car seized. Pima County Sheriff's Department said, "We are not confirming the car being seized, but we are unsure where the reporter is getting that information." So directly reporting to as far as what Miss Banfield. So they're not confirming it, but say that they're unsure where she's getting her information, kind of alluding that it's not true. I think, like I said, it may have been voluntarily turned over to law enforcement, and so they can look through it and ensure that there wasn't anything in there like blood or anything like that. And so that might be where the discrepancy is it might be voluntarily turned over. Let's see. The publication was also sent an alleged ransom note demanding money for Nancy's release. The Sheriff's Department is now working with the FBI to check its authenticity. Authorities believe Nancy was kidnapped in the middle of the night. Investigators feel time is of the essence in this case, as Nancy is 84 in poor health without getting her daily medication. So that's the end of that. I would think the ransom would go to the Today Show. TMZ is weird because the person isn't in the right head, obviously. You know, I thought more so that it seemed like it was more of a one or two things. Either a distraction from the person to make it seem like it was that. Maybe this was something else and you're trying to get people to look in one direction. Or it was somebody else trying to get a payday. Because again, you know, you have your victims reaching out to these folks to say, "Hey, let's talk, let's do this." Maybe perhaps they reached out and that's why there was the law enforcement at their house. But it doesn't seem like they have. It reached out to the family, which is interesting because you would have assumed that, you know, Savannah's mom would have had Savannah's phone number, her cell phone. They could have got a burner phone of some sort and text her, called her, say, hey, this is who we have. We want this amount of money. Keep it hush hush. By involving the media and stuff, you're involving law enforcement. Now they know, and all these other things, right? The fact that the ransom didn't come out until after and well after the disappearance was media is another telling thing. Be another thing if she got a call or something saying, hey, we have your mom, we want this amount of money, blah, 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 or whatever the case may have been, right? But that wasn't the case. It was a significant amount of time after the fact. I'm very, skeptical on the ransom stuff as being truly tied. But you got to take it serious. You can't just put it on the back burner either. You know what I mean? Especially if they have information that only they would know. If that ends up being the case, then it's interesting tactics that they're using, but I tend to think that this is probably more so an elaborate hoax, and not necessarily a hoax, but somebody trying to cash in on somebody else's grief and situation by saying that they have her, knowing that this person is missing, in hopes to get a payday. That's, to me, it screams that with the whole ransom note. But I'm not closing the door on it, not at all. Just interesting, things that are done. Waiting until it's already media, it's already news, contacting the news instead of contacting the family. All those things kind of scream out that this person is trying to cash in. Leave a letter at the house. Yeah, something, but that's usually like I don't know. I've never investigated a kidnapping that wasn't like some sort of family custody issue. When I was in law enforcement, that was about the extent I'm trying to go through. So I've really have zero experience when it comes to something like this. I just assume that, if this person was smart and they went through they got into the area without being found or without their car being seen or anything like that. And that's a big if. I don't know if that's true or not. But smash up all the cameras, know where everything is at, take her in the middle of the night, and get out of there without law enforcement being able to figure out who it is in a few hours or in a few days. And then go to the media. You know what I'm saying? It's weird. It's a weird jump to do all those things, to be secretive about everything, and then go to the media instead of going to the family and saying, hey, we have your family member. We have your mom, your loved one. Give us what we want. Don't contact police. Don't do this. Don't do that. That makes more sense. All right, I'm going to do this for another couple of minutes. If you have any questions, put a couple of stars in there. I was already feeling sad about the way Banfield was speaking about the ordeal today, on and on about great friend, but saying things I would not say if it were my friend's mom. It was sad. Yeah. So in the end, I have no idea if they've picked up the vehicle or not. I would assume that they would have taken it in to look at, cross your T's, dot your I's, just in case. This is the last person that saw her that they know of. You're going to want to look at the vehicle. You want to look at where they were, what they did. What is it that they did? Where did they go? Was somebody watching them? Was somebody following them? Had somebody been following them in particular? Just because they took, Nancy may not be like she's the not necessarily not the target. The target could be the finances behind this, right? If this is the abduction, the means is that they want the money. So what they're doing is they're targeting, I'm assuming Savannah is the one with the wealthy one. So they take somebody that she loves, and so that they can use that against her. And so you'd have to look into Savannah's background of of who's been digging into her. She have any threats and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go into this. It's very early, very early. Yes, we do appreciate everybody being here. NPR quotes the sheriff as saying the security cameras in the front of the house is gone. Okay. Send me that link. I want to see what that is. But I'll be back tomorrow night, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys then. Peace out, y'all.